Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NEWSROOM. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 29th of November 2023, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin with the two-day important visit of our caretaker Prime Minister, Mr. Kakar, to Kuwait. The importance of this visit is paramount in the whole wake of these visits that our caretaker Prime Minister has been having. He had one in the United Arab Emirates, from which he went directly to Kuwait. The importance is that both the countries want to strengthen cooperation between Pakistan and their respective countries. The UAE has already signed different MOUs, so has Kuwait. There have been agreements and MOUs that have been now signed between both the countries. There have been important bilateral interactions also between the caretaker Prime Minister and the Kuwaiti leadership. We'll be highlighting that during the course of our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns what is happening in Palestine as we speak. There are intensive talks as the deadline for the truce is now nearing. We know that 48 hours had been given as an extra for the truce extension, but now that these 48 hours also ending, there is more talk of this extension of truce. Who benefits the most from this truce? Whether is it Israel or is it Palestine? We'll be highlighting that, and of course all the other deliberations that are also going on across the world as we speak. Today was an important day as well that the United Nations had announced in solidarity with the people of Palestine. The whole world got together. There have been different protests across the world on this important day, including in Pakistan. The fact also remains that Pakistan has been highlighting this very issue on different fora as well, and the need to find a durable solution, whether it be in the form of a two-state solution or any other solution, is pertinent in this time when the casualties are increasing manifold in Gaza, and the number of casualties risk to increase once the truce ends. This is going to be our second segment. Then we are going to talk about 7 students who have been held in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir for anti-India sloganeering. The students have been held for alleged intimidation following the World Cup defeat by India. The students were arrested under the tough anti-terrorism laws and the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. We all know how India uses such legislation such as this and others like UAPA against thousands of Kashmiris, and continues to use that. And there's such a lot of similarity between what is happening in the Indian Hill Valley and in Palestine. Finally, we'll be talking about Foreign Minister Jalil Abbas Jilani, who is attending an anti-migrant smuggling conference in Brussels, and talking at this conference, addressing the participants of the conference. He talked about international collaboration to tackle migrant smuggling. He also emphasized the need for legal pathways for this very migration, and highlighted Pakistan's steps to curb illegal migration. Pakistan has been working very diligently with other important organizations in this very regard. This is going to be our last story. Let's begin with our first, and that is our caretaker Prime Minister Kakar Saab's visit to Kuwait. Kuwait is a brotherly country, a friendly country, a country with which we have strong links, and our caretaker Prime Minister has just had a very important and fruitful visit to the United Arab Emirates, from which he has now come to the country of Kuwait. We've been joined by Dr. Khalid Waleed. He's an energy economist with the SDPI, and he's in the studios. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Saab, we saw many an important MOU and agreement signed during the visit of our caretaker Prime Minister to the UAE. It seemed to be an extremely important visit, and the UAE seems to be very interested in further augmenting this collaboration. How do you see the visit in Kuwait? Do you feel similar sentiments have been echoed by Kuwait?
Well, obviously there are similar sentiments. We need to assess the needs of both the countries. First, I'll come to Pakistan's need. Let's discuss 3 Ds of Pakistan. These are deficit, debt, and demographic dividend. Let's say in terms of deficit, we have fiscal deficit, we have trade deficit, we have some sort of trust deficit, and in terms of debt, we have mounting debt. We need to pay or reschedule that debt. We need to have this sorted out in coming years. And then lastly, this is demographic dividend of Pakistan. Pakistan's population is increasing. There is an increased youth bulge in Pakistan, so we need to manage that for the good of Pakistan as well. So in the context of these 3 Ds, this visit is very important, particularly to the GCC countries. GCC countries, they provide a very friendly sort of buffer and shelter for Pakistan in terms of despair and times of hopelessness. They have come for the support of Pakistan. What Pakistan can do, Pakistan can enhance the trade that will have bilateral effects, not for the Pakistan but the GCC countries as well, because they are food insecure countries due to their I would say limited amount of land available to them. Pakistan can provide that land so that they can have this corporate farming going on and climate smart agriculture thing, so that they can be energy food secure. Second thing is that they have sufficient amount of energy, but that energy is fossil fuel based. Pakistan is an energy deficient country. Pakistan can utilize that energy as well, and Pakistan can provide in turn a green development or green credits or carbon credits to these fossil fuel based economies, so that they can offset their emissions and so on and so forth. So this is the 2 Ds. Third D is that Pakistan's demographic dividend. In terms of that, GCC countries, they provide Pakistan with a fiscal stimulus in terms of remittances. Pakistan need to cater for that as well. We can export our labor force to Kuwait and other GCC countries so that we can get remittances back in Pakistan. So we are dealing with 3 Ds, that is deficit, debt, and demographic dividend with one policy, one visit. So this is a very significant kind of visit for Pakistan.
From the 3 Ds, let's go to the 7 As and 3 MOUs. The 7 agreements that have been signed to attract multi-billion dollars investment from the state of Kuwait include food security, agriculture, hydropower, this is something that we'll discuss, water supply, safe drinking water, and supporting mining activities, establishment of mining fund to support the mineral industry, technology zones development, and mangrove preservation. The 3 MOUs that have been signed are in the fields of culture and arts, environment and sustainable development, and of course all of these factors are very important. Let's come to hydropower, because you are a specialist in energy. When you talk of hydropower, how can Pakistan benefit from Kuwait and vice versa?
Well, there is another D, that is diversification. I mean, in trade, we need diversification. In our energy portfolio, we need diversification. And GCC countries, particularly Kuwait, that, can provide this diversification so that we are not reliant on only one source of energy or one source of trade. We can diversify in multiple sectors and multiple fuels. Hydropower is one of the significant sectors in which Pakistan has the potential, but there is a one limitation, that is they are very costly. They need very much capital, so that we need to build them with foreign investments and other investment, and they take time. But the energy produced with those hydropower and hydro plants, that is very cheap, which Pakistan can harness and Pakistan can use to link it with the Pakistan's industrial growth. So in terms of hydropower, Pakistan can use this investment coming from the Kuwait and build it. Pakistan already has a good capacity in terms of building these plants, but one impediment or bottleneck is the financial bottleneck, which Kuwait can provide, and we can sort of merge these two together and we can build a dam. Another important thing is that maybe building bigger dams, we can opt for the micro hydels, smaller dams, so that it would be more people-centric, community-based, and short-term solutions, and will require less amount of revenue, so financial capital, and will require less time to build. So we need to focus on that as well. But I would say this is a step in right direction. Finances coming from the GCC, we have the capacities, we can build that dam and hydropower plants in Pakistan, so that we are linking it with our industrial growth, again taking care of our deficits, or energy deficit or trade deficit as well.
All right, Khalid Saab, another new field that has attracted a lot of investment from the UAE and now from Kuwait is the mining industry and the mineral excavation as well. If you look at the agreements, establishment of mining fund to support mineral industry and water supplies, that includes supporting mining activities, has been included. This support from Kuwait and from the UAE, as far as our mining or the mineral industry is concerned, how lucrative can it be for Pakistan?
Well, I would say the future of mining lies in renewable energy mining. I mean, minerals, those are imperative for renewable energy, for fostering, for example, cobalt, lithium, and so on and so forth.
Even gold.
Even gold, yeah. So we need to cater that as well. I would like to highlight the SIFC's role in that, because
Extremely
they brought this mining portfolio into this investment portfolio. So what we need to do is we need to go from the traditional mining, that is coal, oil and other sort of things, towards the modern mining, that is mining for the renewable energy minerals. That would be the requirement of the world. According to the International Energy Agency report, we would be needing 80% more minerals in terms of renewable energy development, because the world is exponentially shifting towards renewable energy. As you mentioned that there is a COP going on from tomorrow, so there would be more focus towards energy transition, just energy transition, and what is the availability and how we can take care of the minerals demand in terms of renewable energy minerals.
You talked about the SIFC. Our caretaker Prime Minister, while these agreements and MOUs were being signed in Kuwait, termed these another milestone in the achievement which the SIFC platform is bringing for the country. How important is the SIFC for Pakistan's present, for the Pakistan's future investment, bringing in investment from other countries, as has been apparent from the interest shown by the UAE and Kuwait?
Well, I think the first step to bring the investors to Pakistan, or bring the investment opportunities to Pakistan, in that I think SIFC has succeeded in a very good way. But the next step would be very challenging, and that is to keep those investors intact and in Pakistan, so that they can plan for their long-term investments in Pakistan.
What measures need to be taken for that?
I think first would be the consistency of policy. Second would be the political stability. Third would be if we can provide them with one window
ease of doing business, basically.
Ease of doing business. Yes, you are very right. And fourth would be how different entities in terms of governance, in terms of implementation, and in terms of bringing more and more investors, they are integrating with each other. For example, federal entities and provincial entities, and going towards the other entities of the federal and provincial governments. That would be key for keeping these investments in Pakistan and persistence of investments coming into Pakistan.
All right. Now, let's also talk about the high-level interaction that our caretaker Prime Minister has had. During the course of the signing of the agreements and the MOUs, there was the first Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for Interior of Kuwait, Sheikh Talal Al-Khalid Al-Ahmad Al-Sabah, who was present there, along with the Chief of the Army Staff, of course, from Pakistan as well. But he also met with the Crown Prince of the State of Kuwait, His Highness Sheikh Mishal Al-Ahmad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah as well. These high-level visits, how do you term them as important in the context of Pak-Kuwait ties, in terms of attracting more investment, in terms of the regional developments that are taking place, and exchange of important points of views?
Well, you mentioned regional developments. We need to understand one thing, that the world's focus has now shifted from geopolitics to geoeconomics.
True.
We need to build our economic ties so that there is more interdependence in terms of economics between the countries. So there is this shift. And second is that Pakistan's biggest fiscal stimulus in terms of foreign exchange comes from the remittances or the manpower. Kuwait and other GCC countries, they are the destination
UAE as well, 1.8 million in the UAE.
Significant number of manpower in terms of remittances. So what we need to do is we need to explore this diversification more in terms of intensity and in terms of scope as well. We need to export more manpower to these countries, and we need to build the capacity of the manpower. So agreements and MOUs signed between these two dignitaries, that would be very helpful for Pakistan, not only in terms of bringing investment to Pakistan, but bringing foreign exchange to Pakistan in terms of remittances.
I think that would be important, and it's an important development as far as stabilizing Pakistan's economy is concerned. You talked of manpower. Our caretaker Prime Minister, while he met with the Crown Prince of the State of Kuwait, also appreciated the measures undertaken by Kuwait for recruitment of Pakistani manpower in the fields of health, security, and infrastructure. These are three important fields. How can we extend those fields to more? Do you feel we need to have more technical training institutes in Pakistan so that we can cater to the demands that the Gulf countries and the UAE are asking for?
One thing that we need to do is we need to link our universities and educational institutions with the industries, not just the Pakistani industries, with the need of industries based in GCC countries, Kuwait and other countries, so that we are well aware of what is the demand of the market, so that we can build that sort of labor force and we can provide them with that particular targeted labor force so that we can bring more and more remittances to Pakistan. As of now, Pakistan's manpower, they are not very much skilled in terms of, I would say, capital intensity or technology intensity. They are more labor abundant or labor intensive manpower. So we need to shift that capacity of our labor force so that we are targeting more and more sectors in these countries, particularly in terms of IT, in terms of health, in terms of food security, in terms of artificial intelligence and I would say information technology, so that we are bringing more and more remittances.
All right, you're an energy specialist. Now, our caretaker Prime Minister has resolved to forge deeper economic engagements between Pakistan and Kuwait in sectors such as energy, trade, IT, labor, minerals and investments. Let's talk about energy. How can we further our cooperation in it? How can we take advantage of Kuwait's expertise?
Well, about 40% of imports of Pakistan is based on energy imports. I mean, this is one fact that is very hard fact for Pakistan. It creates fiscal deficit, it creates trade deficit. If we can get this portfolio in terms of, I would say, tilted towards renewable energy or reduce our reliance, or we get some sort of subsidized imports of fuels or I would say efficient supply, that would be very good thing for Pakistan. Second thing is that again their economy is based on fossil fuels. They need to offset their emissions so that we can provide them with a buffer state where they can build carbon credits. And you mentioned the mangroves project as well. Mangroves can offset their carbon emissions as well. That would be the need of the GCC country as well. So Pakistan needs to cater that potential as well, because the future is climate financing based and future is I would say very much targeted towards carbon markets, particularly in developing countries.
Information technology is also a very important sector, and I don't think Pakistan has utilized our youth that in this very field. I think we are extremely competent as far as IT goes. How can we, what are the measures through which we can further our IT exports to different countries such as Kuwait, such as the UAE?
I think we need structural shift in that arena as well, because right now the youth of Pakistan, they are very much indulged in the freelancing activities based on their IT expertise. They are doing assignments, they are doing work for $5, $10, $20 on different platforms used for freelancers. We need to make them aware that there is a bigger market of IT and AI available in GCC countries. So we need to train them for that. Obviously, they are earning revenues in terms of those $5 to $10 assignments as well, but we need to make them aware that there is a bigger market, so they can target that market as well and bring more and more revenue back to Pakistan.
Do you feel, Dr. Saab, that we need to also make some proper research in these avenues as to what is the requirement as far as the IT is concerned, the energy sector is concerned? How can we broaden the scope of our cooperation with countries such as Kuwait or the UAE, and then tap into the exact factors that are required by the respective countries, so that whenever the need comes, we are the first in the line to export our manpower?
Well, this diversification initiative by Prime Minister in this visit is very important in this regard, because the world is shifting and there is a more vibrant and more, I would say, diversified sort of sectors which the world headed towards. So we need to target those as well. Not just that there is not demand at this time for these sectors, but we need to prepare our youth and prepare our children for the future as well. Future is of artificial intelligence and higher level.
And of course, energy as well. I mean, this is something that you have highlighted time and again during the course of our discussion. What needs to be the priorities of Pakistan's government? We have elections coming in a few weeks' time, and of course, a new government will be formed after that. What should be the priorities of the new government, and how can the policies the important policies that this caretaker government has adhered to that have been extremely important for Pakistan's economic stability be continued by the next government, whether it be in the energy field, whether it be in the trade field, or in other important fields in view of the cooperation that we are having with these important countries?
Well, again, in the context of this visit, Prime Minister's visit to GCC countries and Kuwait, I think persistent and consistent policies would be the key. And for that, we need political stability, we need confidence in the market, we need ease of doing business, we need a one single window facility for the investors so that they do not have to wait for their projects to develop, and they do not have to go to door to door knocking for the regulatory authorities and other sort of things. And second is that we need to bring some sort of balance to our sectorial portfolio in terms of investment, so that we are having more and more balanced sort of growth, not just one sector is targeted by the investors. That investment is brought to all the sectors, from food security, from agriculture, from copper farming, from energy, mining, IT and health sectors.
All right, Khalid Waleed sir, thank you very much to have joined us. Energy economist, SDPI, Khalid Waleed joining us, and of course explaining the importance of the ties between Kuwait and Pakistan and how Pakistan can tap in the potential that exists in Pakistan and adhere to the requirements of Kuwait and UAE so as to foster a deeper relationship in different fields for which the agreements and MOUs have been signed. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move to the latest news as far as our caretaker Prime Minister Anwar Kakar Saab's visit to the Gulf countries is concerned. Our caretaker Prime Minister Anwar Kakar Saab has now returned from Kuwait and he has returned to the UAE. Now we all know that COP28 is to begin starting from tomorrow, and the importance of COP28 is paramount because of the involvement of Pakistan, because of what Pakistan has gone through as well, with the floods, with the earthquakes in the past as well, and how Pakistan has also been pertinent as far as its involvement in the different measures and that need to be taken by the developing world, for the developing world, for those countries that have been suffering because of the effects of climate change. For this, of course, the work of the previous government has also been extremely important, and Anwar Kakar Saab, our current caretaker Prime Minister's now visit to the UAE in the context of COP28 is also going to be extremely important because of his whatever he's going to say during the course of COP28 and all the meetings that he's going to have, while highlighting Pakistan's perspective on climate change and what needs to be done by the developed and developing world. Let's come to our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns the Palestine and Israel conflict that has now entered its 54th day. The truce time that had been extended for 48 hours is about to end, but will that truce be further extended? The G7 foreign ministers have supported the extension of pause in the Gaza fighting, and of course Pakistan has also been highlighting this on different fora. More in the following report.
The International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people is being observed today. Protests and demonstrations are being held across the world to mark this day. November the 29th is the date the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution on the partition of Palestine in 1947. Resolution 181 called for the creation of an Arab state and a Jewish state, but was never implemented on ground. Pakistani Ambassador Osman Iqbal Jadoon, while taking part in the UN General Assembly debate on the question of Palestine, asked the General Assembly and UN Security Council to consider the establishment of accountability mechanism to investigate Israel's crimes in Palestine. He said that Pakistan's position is in favor of a complete and immediate cessation of hostilities. The Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has already called for an extended truce and humanitarian aid to Gaza. The US lawmaker Rashida also called for release of all captives, Palestinian political prisoners. She said that Palestinian children are often abducted from their homes and then subjected under Israeli apartheid to a separate military judicial system. Israeli forces have conducted raids in several areas of Jenin, including the Jenin refugee camp, and have warned Palestinians against heading to northern Gaza despite the existence and extension of the truce. Israel's military offensive has turned much of northern Gaza into an uninhabitable moonscape. Whole neighborhoods have been erased. Field hospitals coming into Gaza are currently not in service, despite an urgent need for them. The lack of water and hygiene-related materials will increase the risk of epidemics.
I'll discuss that. We've been joined online by Umar Karim. He's a research fellow with the Birmingham University. Umar, thank you very much to have joined us. It had been some time that we had discussed on this very show, so welcome back to Newsroom. Let's begin with the remarks of the acting permanent representative of Pakistan to the UN, Ambassador Usman Iqbal Jadoon, who has asked the General Assembly and the United Nations Security Council to consider the establishment of a special tribunal and accountability mechanism to investigate Israel atrocity crimes in Palestine. Will that ever take place? Can that happen?
I think that if we speak realistically, yes, it perhaps is a bit difficult, but the tide is turning, things are changing, public discourse, especially in the West, especially within the general public, is changing. And it's not like 2 decades ago where Western governments just blindly support Israel and they can go on with it. So yes, there is a lot of organic movement on this. And actually, Israel's own actions, they are paving the way for it eventually to be tried and tested as a state entity which is inflicting terrorism. And I think that, yeah, for now, whatever was, you can say, the advantage which Israel had initially and all the sort of sympathy in Western capitals. Now those governments are under a lot of pressure, and the Israeli government, in turn, is now being pressurized by some of its very close allies to revise its approach.
All right, Umar, I'd also like to add what Mr. Jadoon said at this very forum. He talked about and requested for the deployment of an international protection force or mechanism to protect the Palestinian civilians, especially women and children in Gaza and West Bank, and play its role in the restoration of the peace process. How important has the role of the UN been, and how important can its role be in the coming days?
Definitely, UN is a representative body of the community of nations. And as the UN Secretary General has categorically, Secretary General has categorically said that Israel is committing atrocities within Palestine. So the UN mandate for peacekeeping and the UN mandate for humanitarian intervention is very important. And the other issue is that already these the Palestinian territories, they are occupied. So first, it is mandatory that before the deployment of a peacekeeping mission, the legal status of this occupation should be addressed, and Israelis need to get out of these occupied territories. After that, a UN peacekeeping mission, of course, can be deployed in order to monitor law and order and security. But this is inherently an occupation, and we are now witnessing a next stage of occupation. In the words of Israeli Prime Minister, that we were before mowing the lawn, the grass of the lawn, and now we are just trying to root it out completely. Like, this is the sorts of discourse and language which is coming from the Israeli government, which is unacceptable in according to any humanitarian or legal dimension.
Omar, I'd also like to add to the fact that Israel has not heeded to the demands that were put forward by the United Nations at more than one interval. How can Israel be persuaded or pressurized to heed to the requirements of the United Nations, whether it be adherence to international law, whether it be adherence to all the other resolutions that it has passed?
This is a very good question, because Israel thinks that its allies will just stand with it and it can do whatever it likes. And the Palestinians, whether they are in Gaza, whether they are in West Bank, they don't matter at all. But the problem with the Israelis is that, like it happened in 1973, when the Egyptians attacked and the Israelis were forced to make a peace with its Arab neighbors, but also had to cede it, the Sinai Peninsula, it had to give it back to Egypt, which it had occupied. And now this is the same thing. The Israeli leadership in the doesn't know what is its strategy of war to eventually attain a state of better peace. Because what they are actually doing, in the words of a British historian and military expert Basil Leadenhart, that they are trying to wage war also through means of peace and complete destruction when they just switch it into war. So how can you actually stop it? I think the only way it can happen is that, as some, of course, the OIC has suggested and Arab League has suggested, that there needs to be an arms embargo on Israel. And once its closest allies and patrons, they put their foot down and tell Israel that enough is enough, you cannot go on with this death and destruction, I think then there would be reasonable pragmatic voices within Israel who would challenge this current apathetic leadership that they need to come back to politics. Because as one Clausewitz said, that politics, war is another mean of politics. Right now, there is no politics. Right now, Israel is conducting war through peaceful means, but also through military means.
But you know, I think I would tend to disagree with you, Umar. I think Israel is also using this as a political tool, because Netanyahu's popularity was fading, because his popularity is still fading because of the measures that he has taken. Despite that, he holds his ground because of these very measures, and he's using this very violence as a political tool.
Definitely, in the Israeli political context, and especially with the Israeli far right, Netanyahu is definitely trying to prop it up. But there is also another dimension. You see that he is just catering to one specific constituency within Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister has not till now met the relatives of the people who have been killed in the attacks, and also the people who have been held hostage. The Israeli Prime Minister, a democratically elected Prime Minister, who is, of course, Israel is also touted as a democracy and whatnot, he has no time for his own citizens. And this shows the level of cold-hearted political, you can say, maneuvering which is going on right now in Israeli politics. But it will not end well for the Israeli Prime Minister, in my understanding.
But you know, Omar, let's also talk about the importance of today's day. Today is the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. This is happening today as we speak, and the importance of this day is, of course, extremely important for what happened on this very day in 1947. But look at what is happening, whether it be in Pakistan or across the globe. I'll just give you some examples of the different protest rallies that are happening across the world or are about to happen. In South Africa, a rally in Johannesburg. In Lebanon, and sit in front of the UNESCWA headquarters. In Jordan, protest near the Israeli embassy. In the United Kingdom, workplace day of action plus lunchtime walkout. Germany, event in certain Berlin. United States, various events. Events are also planned in Norway, Brazil, Canada, and Belgium. The world is, the people of the world are at least coming together in solidarity with the Palestinians. But will that exert pressure on the governments that are siding with Israel?
Definitely, and I'd like to share that I am on campus of my university, and just half an hour ago, there was a protest on this campus as well. So there is a mass movement, and I think that the Israeli government, the Israeli political circles, they are still not reading the tea leaves, that this mass movement would eventually force their allied governments to put pressure on them. And I think that the negotiations for truce and the truce itself has only happened once the Israeli allies, particularly the United States and the Biden administration, has felt that they need to do something now. This cannot go on like this.
Omar, Palestine wants an increase in the time for the truce. It is willing to do that. Will Israel also comply? Will there be an increase in the time for this truce? Or do you feel this truce, once this time ends, the fighting will begin again?
This is a very interesting question, because once the truce happened and hostages and prisoners were started, they started to being exchanged, there is a shift in Israeli political spectrum and you can say discourse towards the issue of hostages, because now there is a momentum building up that we need to secure all the hostages. Fighting all the rhetoric of destruction, we will remove Hamas, we will remove the Palestinians, whatever, it has taken a backseat. And I think that because of this engagement, and you see who is involved, it is not only the Israelis and the Qataris, the American CIA chief William Burns is directly involved. And that shows the seriousness of this engagement. And I think that this will be extended, not only because, of course, there is momentum building up within domestic picture side on Israeli politics, but also because U.S. and some prime partners of U.S. in the region, like Egypt, like Jordan, they have categorically told Biden administration that this needs to end. This cannot continue indefinitely. You need to tell Israel to stop. And I think that's why we are seeing a gradual shift in the broader picture.
All right, I'd like to refer to what Pope Francis said. He calls for a continuation of the truce in Gaza between Israel and Hamas. And this is quoted by Vatican News. He said, and I quote, "I hope that the truce in Gaza might continue so that all the hostages might be freed and the necessary humanitarian aid might be able to enter." Also, the United Nations urges the international community to progress towards a two-state solution for this conflict, emphasizing that Jerusalem be the capital for the two states. This was stated by Tatiana Yavlova, the Director General of the UN office in Geneva. Can this happen?
I think that from the developments I have seen, eventually this will happen. You cannot, as the quote of Bessel Edelhart says, you cannot continue a state of war. No state in this world, in this international system, can virtually live in a state of war and can virtually occupy a whole population in an indefinite reign of oppression and discrimination. This cannot continue, and eventually I think that voices from within Israel will recognize this reality. And this reality, of course, in a way was recognized, and that's why the Oslo Accords were signed, and they were meant to be something of as an initiative for the two states. But then we see that other developments delayed it. But I think that eventually the regional politics will come back to that pathway.
All right. Finally, Omar, two very quick questions. I'd like quick and short answers to those. You talked about the voice of Israel. There have been protests happening within Israel, people calling for impeachment of Netanyahu. But of course, the police have intervened and have, put them aside. Will these voices continue to emanate? Will that put pressure on Netanyahu's government? Short answer.
Yes, definitely. And it will increase the way it is going.
All right. Finally, the Gaza City Mayor Yahya al-Sarraj says that the extent of damage by Israeli attacks is only just being discovered. He says about 60% of the housing units and apartments have been destroyed. Thousands of people are homeless. They either live in schools or shelters or at their relatives' houses. More than 15,000 people have perished, have been killed mercilessly by Israel, of which more than 5,000 are children. Will there be repercussions in the long term for Israel?
The repercussions are obviously the broader mass movement which we are seeing in all across the world. This is itself a repercussion. Like South Africa has cut its diplomatic ties. A lot of Latin American countries have cut their diplomatic ties. And this is like a reckoning which Israel is facing, but right now its government is not recognizing.
All right. Thank you very much, Umar Karim, Research Fellow, Birmingham University, to have joined us, also to have given us an update from university about the protest that is being on in favor of Palestine. These protests will be continuing all throughout the day because today is the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinians, and I've given you an overview of which are the countries where the protests will be happening. Finally, let's come to our last two stories. 7 students have been arrested in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir for anti-India sloganeering following the World Cup defeat of India. We've been joined by Musaib, Manzoor, Legal Forum for Kashmir. Musaib, thank you very much to have joined us. Musaib, can you give us more details about these 7 students who've been arrested?
Hello and good evening, sir.
So yes, Musaib, can you give me more details of these 7 students who have been arrested?
Yeah, I'll show you. These are 7 Kashmiri students who study at the Sher-e Kashmir University of Agricultural Sciences and Technology. The campus is based at the Gandarban district in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So they have been accused, these 7 students have been accused of celebrating Australia's victory against India in the World Cup final, which was held in Ahmedabad. The World Cup final was held in Ahmedabad on November 19, and the students were arrested on Monday, 27th November, after a week of the incident. And the complaint, it has been registered by an Indian student, their fellow colleague, who studied in the same university. So now we can see earlier the Kashmiri students, they were blamed for raising anti-India slogans and pro-Pakistan slogans when there were India-Pakistan cricket match. But in this particular instance, there was a match between India and Australia. And now the Kashmiris, they cannot even cheer for their favorite team in a sports contest.
You know, Musaib, I find it very strange because, okay, I can understand the deep hatred that India has for Pakistan. Whenever there's sloganeering for Pakistan, they are arrested. But this time, this was, as you yourself said, this was a match between India and Australia. The police have charged these 7 students under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, otherwise known as UAPA, as well as other sections of the penal code. Why? I mean, what have they done that is so terrible? They just, made some slogans in favor of the Australian team. What did they do that was against Indian interests?
Absolutely. They have no such evidence of raising anti-India slogans or raising pro-Pakistan slogans. The university authorities, they didn't receive any letter or any complaint against the students. What happened is that an Indian student who is enrolled in the same university, he sent an application and complained to the local police station there. And in his written complaint, he mentioned that while the match was going on, the local students, they abused him, which is not correct, which is incorrect. So the local authorities, on the basis of the complaint registered by the Indian citizen or the Indian students studying there, they have arrested them and booked them under the unlawful UAPA. And the unlawful UAPA and the other sections of IPC, Indian Penal Code, they are used for anti-terrorism. They are used to book so-called terrorists. So these are anti-terrorist laws. So booking students under these anti-terror laws, it's criminalization of dissent, and it's criminalization of sport. It's criminalization of cheering for teams other than India. Despite Indian Prime Minister presenting the trophy to the winning Australian team in Ahmedabad, the Kashmiris are being criminalized for speaking, for even sharing their emotions. So Kashmiris are beleaguered. The Kashmiris, even their emotions are being controlled. The Indian state is so fearful, so afraid of the Kashmiris that they are now curbing the Kashmiris' emotions.
That is true. Musaib, I'd like to ask last question from you, if you could give me a shorter answer. You know, India has used this UAPA legislation against thousands of Kashmiri, whether it be journalists, dissidents, residents, and continues to use it, as has been the case with these 7 students. Why is there so much fear, paranoia, or restlessness in India just because students celebrate Australia's victory? Is there a deep-rooted cause within India that causes them to make these arrests and use acts such as UAPA?
Yes, it absolutely is. Indian state is using UAPA and other such laws in Kashmir and within India against political dissenters and Muslim activists. It reveals the ruthless mindset of the de facto authorities in India and in Kashmir. They attempt to control the hearts and minds of the Kashmiris and the Indian Muslims through the barrel of the gun. They know they cannot control the Kashmiri's aspirations or the aspirations or the civil rights movement of the Indian Muslims. So they try to control it by spreading paranoia, by spreading fear through these legislations, through these black laws and the barrel of the gun.
And I'm sure they will continue to use these black laws against anybody who tries to speak in favor of or against what are the so-called Indian interests. And of course, the special interest as far as India is on the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you so very much, Musaib Manzoor, Legal Forum for Kashmir, to have joined us, to have talked to us about these 7 students who've been arrested under UAPA just for siding with Australia in the World Cup final. Let's talk to about our last news that is for today's show. Caretaker Foreign Minister Jalil Abbas Jilani Saab has underscored the need for impactful international collaboration to create effective regulatory structures in order to tackle migrant smuggling while incentivizing legal means for human mobility. He was expressing these views while he addressed the International Conference on Global Alliance to Counter Migrant Smuggling that was happening. This conference was happening in Brussels. The Foreign Minister, of course, is on a 2-day visit to Brussels on the invitation of the European Commissioner for Home Affairs, Ylva Johansson, and he emphasized the need for legal pathways for migration to curb irregular migration and migrant smuggling. He also highlighted steps taken by the government of Pakistan to curb irregular migration, and of course there are many steps that the current government has taken. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news story segments that pertain to us, you in Pakistan. Stay safe and stay tuned. Allah Hafiz.